I, uh, I am Dr. Regina Hopkins, and on behalf of an incredible team, I welcome you to today's webinar to support your Increasing Educator Diversity Plan development and implementation. We hope your 2024 is off to a smooth start. We are recording this webinar, so we are asking that you give your consent. If for some reason you don't wish to be recorded, then you can hop off and watch the recorded webinar once it's posted. This is year 5 of the CSDE's partnership with the Region 2 Comprehensive Center. Our wonderful partners in this effort. I've had the distinct pleasure of working with some amazing people to increase the racial, ethnic, and linguistic diversity of Connecticut's educator workforce. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to work with them over the last 4 years. Today, we are joined by Dr. Meg Cavan from the R2CC, Yvonne Allen, and Dr. Saroja Warner. I'm also joined by 2 of my CSDE colleagues, Dr. Jessica Ocasio and Amanda Pickett. We ask if you would please use the chat to identify yourself, include your name, title, district, or educational organization, and indicate whether you have participated in any of our Increasing Educator Diversity coaching series. Next slide. As always, we begin each session with our community agreements. If we had more time, we would co-create them with you. However, for purposes of this session, we have identified what we believe are 5 important things for us to be mindful of as we are in community with each other. When people gather as a group, it's an opportunity to create an inclusive community and culture. And so establishing and whenever possible, co-creating community agreements is a powerful strategy to establish an inclusive, safe, supportive, open, and trusting environment. Our community agreements are be present and engaged, listen and avoid judgment, be open to new learning, allow space for everyone to be heard, and we continue to ground our conversation in the language of the work because equitable language facilitates equitable practices. And we are particularly mindful of the fact that we do not use the word minority for people of color, as it is a pejorative term. So we use language that affirms people, educators, students, and families of color in a positive, respectful way. We also urge and encourage you as you engage in your work to increase educator diversity and work with your teams to remember that it's important for you to develop shared meanings for terms like diversity, equity, and unconscious bias. Next slide, please. Our session outcomes for today, we are going to again review the critical components of a root cause analysis. We are going to demonstrate resources and tools available to assist you in conducting your root cause analysis. And we're going to be using the Brookside Story, which is found in the resource, A Guidebook for Hiring and Selection, to demonstrate using data, root causes, and what it looks like to set goals. Next slide. A root cause analysis can shed light on specific factors that contribute to a lack of diversity in your educator workforce. We continue to emphasize the importance in this phase of understanding what are the systemic issues at play that need to be altered in order to help you increase your educator diversity. It's critical that the team follows norms, uncovers and uproots personal and systemic biases, and moves with transparency in its work. And now I will throw it to Jessica.
Good afternoon, everyone. We want to ensure that you are aware of all of our resources that are available on the CSDE website. I'm going to quickly just show you how to navigate to the Increasing Educator Diversity Plan section of the CSDE website within the Talent Office homepage. When you go into the CSDE Talent Office webpage, you're going to see this come up. Within this Talent Office webpage, you're going to see this purple box here that says District Resources. And then you will see Increasing Educator Diversity Plan, and you will click that. That tab will take you to previously recorded webinars that we've had, along with the slides, along with other resources available to districts, such as the guidebook, the toolkit, and the updated template for districts to use to complete their Increasing Educator Diversity Plan. We did hear some voices from districts about having more space to fill in your plan, so it has been updated so that way you can fill in as much information as possible and everything is visible. So please make sure to visit the resources there so you can get that template readily available for your team. It's very important that you visit this website because that toolkit and guidebook are there, and those should be your key resources to guide you as you're creating your Increasing Educator Diversity Plan. Within that purple box as well, I'm just going to go backwards. You're also going to see the EDS and EdSite. The EdSite is also going to be an important piece of resource for you to use, and I'll explain that to you in the next couple of slides. Within our root cause analysis, we are going to be using the tools within our toolkit. So I'm just going to show you quickly what you should be looking for within the guidebook, to complete your root cause analysis. We're going to be starting on page 19 of the guidebook, and that's starting with appendix number 2. And I'll quickly just show you what you should be looking for in that appendix. So appendix number 2 is just a graphic to import of your district demographic profile. Again, as I mentioned before, the EdSite link is going to be a great resource for you to use. And I'll tell you what it looks like after we go through the appendix. But this is going to be critical to really get hard numbers on your district's demographic diversity profile. It's going to ask you to put in specific numbers, percentages, and so on and so forth. So that EdSite is going to be very important for you to go visit. The next appendix is the worksheet for mapping district hiring process. This is what it looks like here. There are survey questions for your team to answer together. Again, coming up with hard numbers. If you don't have someone from your human resource office or human capital office on your team, that's something to consider because they will be able to provide all these data points to you when completing this appendix. The next is the Appendix 4 Data Inquiry Tool. Again, using the data that was collected and just really thinking about putting these numbers together to see your district as a whole. Then Appendix number 5, which is the self-assessment tool. And this is going to be a great tool for your team to use together to get a better idea, a more in-depth idea of what you should be thinking about and looking into when moving into creating your increasing educator diversity plan. There are very specific questions or statements with clear evidence samples for you to consider when you're going through each of these. And it's also good to see where everyone's understanding of the district in regards to increasing educator diversity is as well. Then we have appendix number 6, which is getting the problem right. So it's the 5 whys root cause analysis. So you're going to have all this data, which is going to support or be a part of your root cause analysis, and then you'll come up with 5 whys. This is all steps that should be taken and utilized to help create your increasing educator diversity plan. And we're going to kind of sample that process with you today with our team here at CSDE and the Region 2 Collaborative. As I mentioned before, one of the most important resources that you're going to need to use is the EdSite, specifically the Educator Diversity Dashboard. So for those that may not know what that looks like, I will pull it up for you here. You have the link to EdSite on that Talent Office page right in that purple box. When you click it, it will take you to EdSite. The box that you are looking for, the link that you are looking for when you are in EdSite is right here, the Educator Diversity Dashboard. That will take you to data in regards to the host states and specifically to districts. It'll show trends, comparisons over time. So this is a great resource for you to use for your planning and for your root cause analysis data overview. It shows trends, educators of color by year, and it shows comparisons of educators and students of color by year. And it goes all the way back to 2009, 2010 school year. So this is going to be a key resource that your team will need to utilize when you are going through this process for your creation of your increasing educator diversity plan. And I am going to pass it on to Meg.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for that great introduction, Jessica. I'm thrilled to be joining you from the Region 2 Comprehensive Center team to transition into our use of the Brookside story as sort of an allegory or an example, illustrating how root cause analysis can be or is a really critical point for scripting goals and choosing strategies for achieving those goals. So if you're familiar with the guidebook, you will also be familiar with the Brookside story, but for those of you who haven't had a chance to really dig in yet, Brookside is a fictional district that we use to really sort of walk through a fleshed out account of how the increasing educator diversity process and the appendices that Jessica just showed us can work. To give a brief overview, Brookside is a district just over 10,000 students. 23% are Black, 54% are Hispanic, 2% Asian, 21% white, and mirroring the sort of broad state level trends in educator diversity. 84% of the teachers in the district are white, 10% are Black, and 6% are Hispanic. Brookside, like many of the districts across the country and in Connecticut, are addressing a key problem of practice related to educator diversity. And what Brookside is trying to investigate is what are the conditions necessary to ensure the hiring and selection of a racially, ethnically, and linguistically diverse educator workforce. They're trying to understand how to shift mindsets and skill sets to sustain those conditions and identify the hiring and selection practices that will most likely lead to increasing educator diversity. They hope to identify the professional learning supports that will be necessary for all involved in the hiring and selection process. And what we're going to do in the next several slides is engage you in an interactive exercise in looking closely at Brookside's root cause analysis process, and thinking about what goals they could script based on what they learned, and moving forward into thinking a little bit about strategies. So to kick us off in that pursuit, I'm going to turn it over to Amanda Pickett, and I will be back with you momentarily.
Thank you so much, Meg. All right, so together we are going to engage in looking at Brookside data and their root cause analysis to think about how we use this information to select goals and potential success measures. So we're going to do this together. I know that having engagement is helpful for us to think about what this would look like when we're doing this with our own teams. So my amazing colleague Yvonne is going to drop in the chat a link to a Jamboard. And I see a question in the chat that I want to acknowledge before I even move any further. So the case study, we are using this case study as a way to demonstrate how you use the information you elicit from the root cause analysis to set goals that go into the template, that actually go into creating your plan. So this is, we're moving on to creating our goals, and then we're going to be looking at selecting strategies and the next pieces of that. So Bob, I hope that is helping answer your question. If not, please feel free to unmute or chat back in. Thank you, Yvonne, for dropping the Jamboard in the chat. I encourage you all to open that Jamboard. And we are going to be using that as we go through each of the kind of examples. There's 3 of them. We're hoping that you can help us think about what goal you might want to select based on this root cause analysis, and how would you measure the success of that goal. As you're accessing that link, I'm going to remind us of the community agreement that Dr. Hopkins mentioned at the beginning of this session. This is a collaborative activity, so it gives us all a chance to have our ideas heard without judgment. I'd also encourage us to be mindful about the language of the work as we're putting sticky notes on this Jamboard around our goals and our measures of success. So if everybody is good with being able to access the Jamboard link, I'm going to move us on to our first example. You can switch the slides here. Next slide, Jess. Perfect. All right. So on page 1 of your Jamboard, this is the scenario that we are looking at. In the purple, you see the findings from the root cause analysis that the Brookside team completed. Through their discussions, they reviewed their recruiting efforts, which includes hosting and attending job fairs at local universities, including some historically Black colleges, and in diverse communities. In their recruitment efforts, they encourage candidates to review their materials and website, which does not highlight their DEI efforts in their district. Ultimately, the team has decided that their root cause analysis demonstrates that candidates of color are unsure of the district's efforts around DEI and question the district's efforts around building accessible, inclusive, and affirming environments where everybody belongs. So now, on your Jamboard, imagine that you're on this team. With this information, what goal might you want to set? How would you measure that success? So we'll take a couple minutes to kind of give you an idea of what we could set as potential goals and success measures. I'm going to open up the Jamboard myself so I can see. We're going to keep this slide up so you can see the information, but just a couple minutes to kind of gather some feedback from you all on what might be a potential goal and how we would measure success. I see lots of people in the Jamboard. Yay, I see a yellow one, a yellow sticky. And that sounds like a logical, good goal to set, something that ensures that our candidates of color understand. So communicating the district's efforts, a goal around that. For those of you who are thinking about that goal, what might be some success measures? How would we know if we're doing that goal well? And just so you all are aware, our plan as a team who are putting these PDs together is to keep some of this Jamboard feedback to kind of demonstrate the use of the template in the next couple sessions with you all. So this is helpful because I think I even see some of the ideas being prompted here. Many of you are like me who quickly move to action and strategies, and you're listing some really great strategies that the team might want to use to do this work. And so thank you. These are great ideas. And whoever is like cleaning them up and putting them in nice columns, thank you. Awesome. So many of these are around thinking about, oh, I love the sticky note there about how to measure the statement of DEI in the website. So this is a great demonstration of needing to work collaboratively on these goals. This would mean like, how do you engage your webmaster? How do you track hits on a website? So you guys are really getting into some creative and in-depth thoughts here. And hopefully, I know we're using a fictitious district. However, we also were pretty thoughtful about our examples here to be common experiences. So hopefully you all are being able to see your own district in some of this example and some of this discussion. So again, we encourage you to use this webinar and this resource as a tool as your team continues to do this work. Meg, I don't know if you think we're ready to kind of move on to scenario 2. You want to wrap up any comments here or any other members of the team? I open up some thoughts.
I was, Amanda, doing my best to stay out, to resist the temptation to add comments myself to this Jamboard because it's full of such great ideas. And I appreciate that, you know, measurement as the resident evaluator and researcher, measurement is a really nerdy and often very difficult nut to crack, and appreciate that we also know that goals that are smart, goals that are strategic and measurable are the gold star here, the gold standard for goal setting. So appreciate that you are thinking about creative ideas that are also and also thinking about measurement at the same time. And Kim, just acknowledging your question, I think the plan is to share out the Jamboard probably in a more refined format, but I will let my teammates at CSDE reflect on that before I go on to the next slide.
Perfect. So I would say the Jamboard link will be accessible. We won't take that down. And kind of to my point, maybe I wasn't clear about this earlier, we are planning as our team to use this to demonstrate the use in the template. So in like the next session, we're going to demo like how to create goals in the template and where this all goes. So hopefully that will be helpful to you. And there's ongoing work and guidance around kind of what's expected in each of in the template. So Kim, we hear you and we're working on that.
Thank you so much, Amanda. That's always so great. Okay, so moving forward into the next slide, this is going to be sort of a repeat of the same exercise on a clean page of the Jamboard. You can toggle over to page 2.
The best quarterback of each decade.
Toolbar. Just a quick reminder to keep muted so that there we go. I think we can all hear each other. So in the second stage of the Brookside's root cause analysis, the team reviewed their data and found that there was no mechanism for collecting racial identity from interested candidates who are applying to positions. This is a really common situation we've heard from districts again and again, so we know that Brookside is not alone in this. They also identified that in their hiring and selection process, Members tend to favor candidates from institutions with which they are familiar versus researching institutions which they have little or no familiarity with. And then finally, in reviewing the essay samples from job applicants, they find that there's no rubric for scoring or consistent expectations for what that essay is supposed to deliver or communicate to the hiring committee. And specifically that there's no criteria that are free of bias. So with those findings, the sort of summary is that they're looking at this antiquated application form and system, a lack of diversity across their hiring committees, and a lack of training within their hiring committee that are also contributing to some of the lack of diversity across their candidate pool and hires. So if we can have you slide over back to the Jamboard and think again about a goal that the Brookside team should set for themselves in their Increasing Educator Diversity Plan that addresses this component of the root cause analysis, and then also those metrics again that they could use to measure success. I will give everybody a couple of minutes to populate this page.
Meg, while folks are adding great contributions, I would just say this is an amazing brainstorm. And then I'm sure we're going to look at next when we put in the template, when we look at setting goals, really looking at how do we ensure that they're smart and all of the great, all of those great attributes. I think now demonstrating folks thinking around what strategies, what are they wanting to see? I see a lot of that generation in the Jamboard, which I think is helpful in helping us create a very specific goal. So I wanted to thank folks and encourage the thinking that's going on in that space.
Amanda, you and I unmuted, I think, at exactly the same time. I'm like watching the activity on this Jamboard and not wanting to cut it short because I know there's also it's a big ask to sort of engage with these big ideas and ask you to generate ideas of your own and have them reflected in a public space. So wanted to give everybody adequate time to do that. But yeah, there's a lot of really great stuff here. I'm going to call out this sticky that says include racial self-identification in the application and strategically look at the data separate from applications, of course, which I think I take every opportunity I can to say back this piece of information that, this person's obviously aware that it is perfectly legal to ask applicants about their racial and ethnic identity, but that data needs to be stored separately and looked separately at from the application itself. So those are the conditions under which those data can be collected and analyzed, and that in fact collecting and analyzing those data are critical. I'm trying to read as quickly as I can. If anyone else wants to unmute or flag anything that's particularly of interest on our team that I might be missing. Yep, ensuring that there are training modules for committee members, and that tracking participation in those training modules is critical. Yep, rubrics for scoring candidates either on their individual components of the application or on the essay itself per the Brookside story. Great. I think Amanda, Regina, Jess, Saroja, and Yvonne, unless there's anything else that I'm missing here, I'm happy to jump into the next scenario. I think I'm thrilled with the amount of engagement we're able to get, even though we're doing this silently. So Jess, if you don't mind, thank you so much. Moving into the question of retention, which is a really important but often overlooked aspect of the work around increasing educator diversity, right? Like you can hire as many candidates of color as you want, but if they're leaving as quickly as they come, you're not making, you're not going to make the progress you want in terms of the overall staff demographics. So in reviewing their retention data, Brookside found that candidates of color, you're not sustaining educators of color in the district over the long term. In part, that may be because they're not offering additional training support or affinity spaces for those faculty of color. There are no pathways for development for staff of color, and many are unsure of the opportunities for growth that exist for them in the district. And finally, that sort of in contrast to some of those gaps, there are mandated trainings and coachings on topics aligned to the district's strategic academic goals. So, you know, not to give away the answer, but like raises questions about what's the unspoken message there around district priorities. In summary, the root cause analysis finds that once candidates of color are hired, there are limited ways that the district ensures that they are supported and able to grow, and encourages their retention in their positions and their ascension through the leadership ranks in the district. So thinking about the ways that those contribute to or interrupt Brookside's attempt to increase educator diversity across the district, going back to the Jamboard and toggling over to the third page, we're invited again to think about the goals that Brookside could set specific to the challenges that are unearthed by this component of the root cause analysis, and thinking about measurement strategies for tracking progress on those goals. You all are pros now. The speed with which these ideas are flying up here is really encouraging.
I was thinking the same thing. Thank you all. It's hard sometimes presenting in these very large spaces, and it is silent. And feeling like, is this working? Are you getting it? But I'm seeing them fly in too, Meg. Thank you all. And as you're generating ideas in the Jamboard, I would just reiterate to everyone on the call the importance of the guidebook and the use of Brookside's story as a demonstration of the process. So kind of to the question that was in the chat, that guidebook was intentionally crafted, and the use of Brookside Story was intentionally crafted to demonstrate how you do this work, and the use of the tools in crafting of the plan. So I would encourage folks to go back to the guidebook and check that out. I would also say, as part of the team who were crafted today's session, we thought critically about pulling examples of root cause analysis that link to the areas in your IED plans that you're crafting. So thinking about the importance of recruiting, selecting and hiring and retaining staff of color. So just another plug to go back to the guidebook and review the Brookside Story as a resource.
I think echoing Amanda, I think there's a lot of really wonderful and creative thinking that's obvious in these on this Jamboard. I think at the risk of putting the brakes on any of that thinking, and I think Amanda has sort of talked a little bit about this, the direction that we're moving in this sort of like professional development and coaching work that we're doing around the IED plan is to get really specific about like, what is a root cause analysis? How is it done? What are the data you use to do it? And what is a goal? And what is a SMART goal? And how do you craft a SMART goal? And then what are the strategies you want to enable to make progress toward those goals? And I think what we're seeing here is a little bit of blurriness across some of those categories, and that is fine. But know that we will be working together to sort of tease those apart for the purpose of crafting really tight and specific IED plans for your district going forward. So that is the work that we have set ahead for ourselves that we look forward to doing with you, and look forward to the opportunity to help you line up the challenge you're facing, the goal you're setting for yourself, and the strategy you're going to use to, I don't know, attack is the wrong word, but address the challenge you're facing, and then how you're going to measure your own progress. All right. So with that, unless there are further comments or questions, and I've been watching the chat, I'm going to pass it over to Saroja, who's going to introduce the template for the IED plan to us.
Thanks so much, Meg. And thanks to everybody for all your participation. I do want to say I think, emphasize the point Meg made about SMART goals. That is so important. I mean, I think sometimes we can feel like, when we get pushed on how we write goals, whether it's for like our evaluations, our performance, and our jobs, or we're working with the students, that it can feel sort of, what's the word, like compliance oriented. Like we have to follow these rules for how to write it. And so we just have to do it to make sure it checks the boxes. But I'll just say that the criteria around the acronym SMART, that I think you just increase your likelihood of actually being able to make a difference and make something different when you have those criteria, when your goal is time bound, sort of hold yourselves accountable to like, by this time we are going to achieve, and then something measurable, right, to the M in there. We're going to achieve this, many more people hired, or retain this many more people, or whatever the thing is that you're trying to increase or do differently. So I just want to again put like an exclamation mark on this idea of like SMART goals, because they just serve you really well. It's not just about checking off boxes. This plan template, as Jessica talked about at the top of the webinar, we heard people's concerns that when they tried to use it, it wasn't enough room in the PDF that we had first offered in the toolkit. And so this is not a screenshot of what the new one looks like, but just so that you know, this other template that is now on the portal is built in an Excel document, which just provided, we thought, a lot more opportunity to write more than this PDF was creating that we originally had. And it is organized, just so you know, and you're ready when you click on it, through in 4 sheets. So for those of you familiar with an Excel document, there are 4 sheets built into the template. The first sheet is a cover page, and so that's where you put some of that information that was at the top of the old template, you know, the name of the district, the lead's name, the members' names, the theory of action, the vision. And then the next 3 pages we built out look just like this, but there's one for recruitment, one for hiring and selection, and one for retention. And we have sort of tested it on our own, and we think that it should help you, I think, build your plan and be a little more user-friendly too. But send us your feedback. I mean, that said, do send feedback to us and let us know. And we are also welcome and open to, if you've created a template, as long as it's got all of the information that we're looking for in this template, if you've got something you think is just going to be more user-friendly to people, please, by all means, share it with us. You know, I don't think that we're so much bound by a template as we are really interested in making sure that everybody, you know, addresses all of these parts of their plan, that they're included. The other thing we also wanted to really call out and make sure you're prepared to think about is, as much as the guidebook is really focused on hiring and selection, there's been a lot of professional learning around hiring and selection in the state that, you know, again, as Meg pointed out, retention efforts are super important. And so really thinking about in your plan, the pipeline, and what are some opportunities in your plan for you to also address retention. We'll talk a little bit more about that the next time as well. And some great ideas came up there on that 3rd Jamboard. But just really wanted to call that out as really important. And so on the template, you know, that again, what we're hoping that we're modeling and giving you opportunities to practice using the Brookside story, the Brookside, you know, sort of fictional district, is, you know, this process of, before you write a goal, going through the process of a root cause analysis, looking at your data, doing the analysis, and making sure that your goals are data-driven, smart, and emerge from your root cause analysis. I think that's it for this slide.
If I could just chime in a little bit, Saroja, and I would agree. I think the importance of using the template, there's a couple of things that I would just maybe reiterate, and I open this up actually for Dr. Hopkins to correct me if I'm wrong, that there are pieces to the template that are important for districts to know and be aware of that she's going to reiterate in a moment. So if other folks are using their own action plan templates, ensuring that it does include all of these pieces and looking at this template explicitly is really important. So I would just reiterate that.
Thank you, Amanda. And our ask has been and continues to be that you actually use our template. I know that many of you have begun the work and have, in some cases, completed it or almost completed it, and in a couple of instances have actually submitted plans. But if your plan is not submitted on the IED plan template, then it is not going to be acceptable. And I guess I'll fast forward to what I was going to say in a minute. But the other critically important thing is that you must have your plan approved either by your board or the equivalent governing body for your schools prior to your submission in order for you to be able to upload the plan and have it reviewed. And one of the great things, in addition to the new Excel document kind of responding to concerns that we've heard from you, is that that information is actually on the cover page of the new Excel document, so that there is in an effort to build awareness of that requirement. The information is also contained in the updated FAQ document, which is currently posted on our resources tab on the website, and I can drop the link to that document and those resources in the chat.
Thank you so much, Regina. And I apologize for misspeaking about the template. So thank you for correcting that. I would certainly not want to lead anyone down the wrong path in this work. And again, here, another reminder, and these decks and the recorded webinars available to everyone after, but these are just the links to things that we've shown earlier on this webinar, reminders about all the resources that are available to you to support your work as you develop your plan. And the next session that we have coming up in February, I don't know that we have confirmed the date yet. Have we confirmed the date that we can share with people? I don't want to speak too soon again.
So I thought we confirmed the date. We haven't.
I believe it's the
We-
15th,
we-
right?
No, it's sooner than that, but there's just some internal logistics that we have to talk about. So as soon as we work through that, we'll get the information out to you.
Okay. So, but it will be in February. There will be
Yes.
another professional learning webinar that will sort of build on what we've been doing here and focus on how to select the right strategies to advance your goals, to achieve your goals, and other parts of the plan. And so what we are really excited to do is to continue to leverage this fictional district, Brookside, and the story that we have in the toolkit to create and share with you and talk through a sample plan, as well as how the plan will be reviewed when it's submitted. And so the department is working on a feedback tool that will be used when plans are submitted to give feedback. And we want to, our intention is to be able to share that, at least parts of it anyway, hopefully, by the next webinar with everyone. So you can look forward to that and tell your friends. Make sure everybody comes to the next one.
Drivers this year: special ed, tuition, transportation, the HVAC, and science reading.
And I think that's all we've got. Again, if you have questions, please email your inquiries to this email listed here. We really appreciate folks joining today and your engagement in the activities, and look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.